Yeah, baby. Yeah. The Mac is back. Back with another video. Hello, the initiated. My name is Marcus Junikala, and today we're having a look at Bloom by oeksound, or oeksound. Still don't know how that's pronounced. I'm hearing oeksound more than anything else, so we'll just go with that. As some of you might know, I'm a huge fan of oeksound. I use Soothe and Spiff pretty much in every session, every mix. Certainly fantastic plugins. Soothe is like a huge problem solver for me. You know, when there's a clear area of frequencies that are building up and being a problem, Soothe does fix that issue pretty much immediately in a few seconds. And Spiff is probably the best transient designer. I don't want to say that because that's I think a product of its own. I do have transient designer as well, but yeah, Spiff is just fantastic when it comes to anything dealing with transients, either boosting them or taming them. It's just again, a fantastic tool. So all of that being said, a part of me is actually afraid to make this demo or this review, this video, whatever it is, because I haven't actually bought this yet. I don't have a license of this. oeksound didn't send me this copy. What we're looking at here is the demo trial version, which means if I like this, I'm in deep trouble, because this isn't exactly what I'd call cheap. None of these tools are. And the problem is, you know, they're pricey, but they are so good. So you might just have to, you know, pay up. So this is kind of scary to me, because, well, first of all, looking at Bloom, there have been many, you know, spectral frequency shifting tools of late, and we've looked at many of them. Obviously, you know, Waves Factory Equalizer comes to mind, although this is undoubtedly different, but that's a recent one. Then we obviously have Galfos, then we obviously have Sonibol EQ as well. And as I've said before regarding all of the ones I just mentioned, they are all quite different tools, and I use them for very different things. And a part of me is very afraid that this will be the case again with Bloom. And with the track record that oeksound has, like, a part of me is wishing that, okay, I'll probably won't need this, so I don't have to pay $199 for this. But the track record says that it's probably pretty goddamn solid. So that's what we're dealing with here. But I'm looking at the website right now. Intentionally, I've taught myself very little about this, so that, first of all, it's more fun for me to learn this, put my hands on it. This is like a very first impressions blind demo. It's more fun for me, and hopefully it's more fun for you, and also maybe the devs or someone else can learn something about this process when a person with this kind of an IQ level tries to wrestle with something like this. But let's go through the website first, get like a base level understanding of what this is trying to be, and we'll go from there. So Bloom is what they call what we wish an EQ would do. That sounds already pretty bad, because I wish my EQs did still a bunch of things that they're not doing, although I have a bunch of them and they're doing many things perfectly. But control irregularities in a rough sound. So this is already what Soothe is doing for me. So interested in seeing how that sort of pans out in terms of the sound. Increase warmth clarity, or brightness in a safe and controlled fashion. So again, this could be something that Waves Factory Equalizer does, could be something that Gullfoss does, could be something that just an EQ does. Obviously, these are very dependent on the material and the tool that is processing them, but transform the tone of a sound with natural sounding results. Okay, sounds good to me. Big fan of natural change. Track through Bloom with low latency mode. Okay, cool. So yeah, as you might know, I'm a big fan of frequency analyzers. This clearly has one in the bottom box there, which is super convenient. Big fan of scopes of any sorts or analyzers. Moving on, they say find your tone with Bloom is an adaptive tone shaper. Okay, so, and like, you know, we mentioned a few already, but also, you know, iZotope stuff comes to mind. iZotope has been my least favorite out of all the ones that I've mentioned so far. And again, all of them do things differently. All of them are different tools. So I would not just put them in the same bucket. They have similar principles, but they're not the same thing by any means. And to me, iZotope is maybe the most edgier sounding of them. You know, when I say harsh, I don't mean it sounds like bad. It's just more, it's edgier sounding to me, sort of more aggressive. Bloom analyzes the character of a signal and applies corrections to the perceived tonal balance for a more even and refined sound. Okay, so this is interesting. So it means that it has a sense of what it's aiming for. So they have obviously included some pre-made decisions about what is, you know, what is better and what is not. So I have no idea whether this is trained by AI. I don't know if it's trained by just professional ears. I don't, at least so far, they don't say, but it's good to know that it has this aim, a sense of, you know, what is basically the ideal spot, because otherwise it doesn't know how to adapt the tone to this, you know, perfect profile that it's presumably aiming for. In terms of how it analyzes, they don't really say here. It also lets you shape the tone and character of a track. For example, by adding warmth, brightness, or clarity. So yeah, these could just be things that an EQ does. So, but yeah, it has some kind of a sense of what it's wants to go for. Tonal adjustments made with Bloom are dynamic and context aware. Okay, in terms of what context aware means, again, is it educated on a bunch of different genres? What does it identify? If it's context aware, there are some parameters that define what that context is. So very interesting, first of all, hearing how that works, but obviously I get a feeling that they are not going to disclose their secrets here. So, cool. But yeah, dynamic. So clearly there's, probably you have this amount control, which is probably some kind of a threshold type of control. This, together with its carefully designed user interface, makes the plugin quick and intuitive to use and helps keep the material sounding natural even when making radical changes. This is absolutely true in terms of what they've done in the past, because, you know, for years before Soothe came out, I had the need of Soothe in my head. I'm like, why is nobody making this? And glad they did. But it does sound super natural. It sounds very, very natural. They're not, you know, excessive sounding. So I have no doubt that they've brought the same, principle into this. Bloom boosts and cuts frequencies only when needed, helping to mitigate energy buildups and reveal more detail. So this does sound like a descendant of Soothe, because I know people use Soothe in a bunch of different ways. and it's possible to use it in a variety of ways, but for me it just ends up being like a problem solver. So cutting out frequency buildups in areas that I don't like, and it does it very naturally sounding, like we touched on. So this clearly has that same concept in there. Interested in seeing how different it is to Soothe. Obviously Soothe can only do one thing at a time, but this is also boosting in addition to cutting. Lets you make tonal changes quickly while being considerate of the source material. For example, you can boost the high end on vocals without emphasizing unwanted sibilance. With Bloom, bright doesn't need to mean shrill, and big doesn't need to mean boom. Sounds good. Use it to shape tone with confidence. Starting point or finishing touches. Bloom can work as a good starting point when shaping a sound, useful for quick crafting single tracks towards a cohesive mix. It's also equally functional as a bus processor, whether for sculpting groups or sensitively shaping a master. Get your mix up to speed effortlessly, or dive deeper to bright, to bring that exact sound you envision to life. Cool. They do emphasize that, Bloom can do a lot of heavy lifting, but it's your ears that decide what's right. Bloom's 4 tone controls allow you to shape the tone freely to your liking. The controls change the overall tonal balance Bloom is working towards, rather than making absolute cuts or boosts found in an EQ. So yeah, basically you have these 4 sliders here in the middle here, and these, like in Soothe, for example, or in, I believe in Spiff, the same thing. You can choose the different zones that you want to work in, and you can emphasize a note. You can tell it to dig heavier into a certain frequency. Here is a pretty interesting design. So you got 4 bands essentially, and when it's not only an up, more or less up and down thing, but you can also slide the control sideways to choose the frequency. Pretty nice. At least initially, I think that's pretty solid. So yeah, this basically seems like you have this amount that is, processing itself onto the incoming audio, and it's aiming for this secret perfect balance. But if you find that you want to dig deeper or lean heavier into something or lean less into something, you go ahead and adjust these accordingly. So that seems to be the basic principle here. You also get an attack and a release control. So this is pretty self-explanatory, but it will basically attack controls how fast it's going to bite into the incoming sound and slow. So this is basically something you just, once you probably have an amount set, you'll go in here and see, what works best with your sound. But kind of a basic compressor type of setup going here. But yeah, these are super important controls, because once you have a good thing going, you tweak the attack and release to really dial in what you're after. Down here in the bottom left, you have quality, which goes from normal to high to low latency. So you're going to make some decisions about that. They have a nice tooltip here. Change between normal, high quality and low latency modes increase the CPU load. Stereo mode linked. So you can do, linked, mid-side split, or left-right split. You can calibrate squash. So when you push the amount beyond this, 70% mark, it shows us that we're in squash mode. Adds frequency-dependent compression. interesting. So that is kind of hinting towards some of its kind of engineering qualities. It sounds like this is what the design of the effects processor is gonna start doing if you push it hard enough, rather than being like a feature thing that they added. That's what it seems like to me, if I'm just guessing with my limited understanding of this stuff. Wet trim. You're always going to trim your wet. Click to match current wet signal level to the dry signal level. Okay, you have a mix control output. Seems simple enough. So very, very nice interface here. Very easy to follow, easy to track. It remains to be seen how easy it is to hear the differences between adjusting these 4 bands. The way I would usually go about this is looking at kind of the key points in your frequency spectrum. Let's say if this is on a bus, for example, then I would look at where the main energy buildup areas are, and may there be more buildup or less, and I'd look for those key points, and I'd basically, you know, let's say this is at 50, and let's say this is at how high does this go? Okay, so yeah, it could be somewhere between, you know, 300 something and 5. This band goes from 750 to 10 kilohertz. That's pretty broad. So yeah, it could be like a 1, 2, 3 zone usually. Typically, obviously, depends entirely on your music. And then you have this high band, which goes from 2.5K to 27K. So this could be used in a number of ways. But yeah, there's only one way to find out. You start pushing it, see what happens. I do like the fact that they do emphasize that, hey, you're supposed to be an audio professional and use your ears and be educated in that way. So this isn't like a magic thing. You just press a button and it does magic. It could do that, but obviously context dependent, and a bit of tweaking will probably result in a better sound. They talk about the squashing a bit. With squash engaged, Bloom applies frequency-dependent upward and downward compression to reduce the dynamic range of the signal and mold it towards the specific shape. Use it to subtly bring out detail or dramatically overemphasize it, adding grit without saturation. So initially, at least in my mixing style and my sound style, if I'm in that zone, it probably means I have bigger problems that I need to deal with earlier in my chain. But obviously this can be used stylistically as well, and not to say it can't, you know, be fixing issues there, but seems like there would be some kind of imbalances in my mix or workflow in earlier stages. Then they kind of summarize this. What is it exactly? In addition to being a quick broad strokes EQ tool, Bloom can be thought of as our take on a color box. It can give character, glue, or grit to your sound in a way that fits your vision. You might use it in place of a dynamic EQ, multiband compressor, saturator, or even compressor. It falls under none of these categories. We call it an adaptive tone shaper. Okay, so yeah, this really emphasizes the fact that you just have to put it to the test and see for yourself what it sounds like, what it feels like. And that sounds good to me, because you really do want to put these to the test. Like I said, like Sonable EQ4, Galfos, Waves Factory Equalizer, who am I forgetting? Well, I mean, Soothe, for example. These are all different tools. They just do things differently, and in fact they all have different aims, so it sounds like this does as well. But this seems like a super versatile thing, but I get the feeling that once I try it out, then I'll know its place, and I'm getting a dreading feeling that I'll probably have to get this somehow. $200, well, $199, under $200. Well, this is, I should say, in euros for me showing. That's a lot of money for a a plugin, period. Obviously, if you are a professional, audio professional, and you do this as a job, and this, gets you a gig or fixes a issue that you're doing, if you were talking to a welder or a carpenter or something like that, $200 for a professional level tool is not an issue. In that context, it's a great investment in your work, granted that it does significantly enhance your process. The question changes when we talk about people who are below that level. Like if you're making a living and money with music, then this is like a no-brainer. It's nothing. I'm assuming that obviously we haven't even touched it yet, but if it does live up to the oeksound standard, then it's a no-brainer. But then we have all the people below that, and obviously oeksound is entirely free to price their product any way they see fit. I'm happy that they have the freedom to do so. And at large, looking at the responses that people have had, I don't think people are so pissed about the price. I think what I've seen more than anything is that people are pissed about no upgrading path, or no, what's the word? Going from product to product. So those who have Soothe or Spiff or both, they've already put money into that. To my understanding, to date, haven't received any upgrade or cross-grade path, no kind of discount. I know oeksound have done some sort of discounts before. I think when Spiff came out, I think they did offer something, if I'm not mistaken. And that's super nice. Just even when it takes a slice out of that price, makes it feel a lot better to the customer. They feel like, their investment in this brand and in these tools has been worthwhile, and that it's respected to at least some kind of a level. So I was also personally very surprised that they didn't offer anything. I don't know, maybe times are tough and they're not making as much as they should or want to. But I do think their brand and the customer company relationship took a bit of a hit there. You can just go read some comments on many videos. People are pretty pissed off, and I don't blame them. I certainly understand that perspective, and it sucks if then you have to wait until Christmas to get some kind of a discount, if even then. Obviously no promises there, and haven't even heard any rumors. But yeah, something to definitely ponder and wonder about. But I think that pretty much wraps this up. You do need an iLok account, an iLok license manager, to use this or demo it. You don't need a dongle because iLok has the computer cloud thingy-majingy now. One license allows activation of the product on 3 machines. Licenses are valid for both Windows and Mac OS platforms. You have to ensure DAW compatibility, etc. Tech specs: Windows 10 to 11, 64-bit VSD3 and AAX. Mac OS X 10.14 to Mac OS 14. 64-bit VSD3, AU and AAX, both Intel and Apple Silicon Macs supported. There you go. Cool. Now we get to the dreaded part. That was a very long intro, but like I said, I know nothing about this, so I just wanted to kind of do that learning on this video. So, but timestamps exist. So what I have here today is a track that I'm working on. Let me actually reset this factory default thing. So yeah, track that I'm working for on for this soundtrack. It's kind of like spacey, synthy stuff mixed with a bit of like real big cinematic percussion. And we're gonna take bits and bobs from this track and test Bloom on them, and probably also on the big bus processing. We could actually start with that, to be fair. And this is not mixed. It has a pretty decent balance in terms of just putting the sounds together, but that's pretty much all. So usually, even in that case, you'll learn more about the tool because it's trying to chew on more problems that way. So it's completely intentional and due to my extremely high IQ. So let's start with the bus processing. And in terms of the presets here, we're not going to use presets today because this is not a useful context, and I don't have a ton of stuff that fall under these typical categories. That's not to say you can't or shouldn't use them. For these kind of tools, I prefer to go from just a completely initialized position, because they are, like tone shapers, these type of tools. I just find it easier and faster and more sensible to go from a clean start. And also, what was I going to say about that? Yeah, when you have this kind of a simple interface and usability, then that can be possible as well. With some tools, it's less so. But I'm happy to see that when you open this up, one of my, like when you open Soothe or Spiff, it opens like some kind of a preset, but I prefer to open it completely initialized. I'm sure that can be changed. I'm sure it can be. So it just opens up completely initialized. But here, again, we get a relatively clean slate, which is, for a tool like this, a better starting position rather than having attack at zero. Well, it's in the middle, so it's initialized, I guess. And then release is set to be at 3, which they've probably seen as kind of a happy middle ground. And amount is literally in the middle as well. I'm going to pull that all the way down. Just having a quick look at here. And again, we don't have a kind of a complete reset preset. Does that make sense? Oh, I lost default. Where can I find default? Set as no, that's not. Oh, that's actually a good button to have. So there you go. But how did I lost my, there we go, factory default. Let's go from there. Pull back the amount. We'll listen to the track. I'll try and get some kind of a decent general level for this, and go from there. Okay, so far I feel kind of screwed because it sounds pretty darn good. Even in this fully initialized position, just bringing this this amount up again, you know, in terms of what we expected, it begins to push aside some of that mushy stuff, some of that is masking the good stuff, and it's accentuating clarity and presence. You feel like you get like an immediate at least like 30% more presence and clarity here. So very impressed by that. And again, we're dealing with this is not mixed at all. There are no mix plugins here whatsoever. Let me actually, there was one kind of a big crushing effect here, which I want to get rid of. There we go. Yeah, so this track is kind of like, this is like a low-level combat thing. A bit of mystery, a bit of curiosity, but you know, still enough, something to keep you going. So that's what we're stylistically looking at here. Yeah, I mean, this Mr. Bloom is sounding pretty sweet. What I want to do next, I touched on a bit of that control there. I want to go each of these bands one by one instead of starting to mix them together to educate myself on how they feel. So again, let's go with this bigger section here. We're going to push the amount. I'm probably going to pull back some of this high end because it begins to get a bit brittle and harsh. Not really due to the plugin. I think it's handling that actually rather well, but with these tone shapers, you do see a trend of when you boost the general amount, the big knob, the big control, you tend to hear that it's accentuating a lot of high frequency stuff, that it gets excessive. This is the case with Gullfoss. This is the case with Waves Factory Equalizer. It just has something to do with, well, first of all, it obviously depends on the material that you're working on. With the sounds that I'm using, it obviously, they're already in a relatively good place in terms of the high end. So it kind of, it's trying to accentuate, let's say the processor wouldn't need to work as hard towards the optimal target. So that's why you need to tell it to pull back. Like Waves Factory Equalizer, I always find the point of where the high frequencies begin to accumulate. Usually, for my stuff, tends to be, you know, around that 7.5K mark, above, you know, 8K, yeah, above, and then I usually pull that down. Same thing here. Not surprised by that. I was, you know, interested in hearing whether it would do that or not, but yeah. So we'll pull the amount up. We'll try and balance the high end a bit more, and then we'll go these other three bands one by one to hear what they sound like. That low end was super beefy and impressive. Really liking this frequency analyzer here as well. With previous oeksound tools, I would like to see I always have like a FabFilter Pro Q3 on the side to have like a super accurate analyzer, so I can really pinpoint the frequency I want to work in. With Soothe, it doesn't show that. You know, if I want to see what it's cutting and how much, then I need to have side by side like a analyzer of the input to show me exactly where I want to be working in. Here, I don't feel any need for that. This seems super clear and intuitive, and I can very easily see, okay, 8K seems to be the problem area here. So far, really liking this controller here. Also, these black bars to the side do exactly what you'd expect them to do, which is to filter out areas that you don't want to have processed. And this is good if you know your low end is locked in and sounding really sweet, or high end, then you do that. Also, in this case, you know, if we didn't want any processing on the high end, which often sometimes is the case with these shapers. You can just pull it back and have it be out. Super good control. In the corners you have how do you what does it mean? I'm wondering about the, because there's a you know, the low cut filter symbol, and then it says off. Oh, okay, so you can then type in a value. Okay, that's good. It's a bit confusing when it says off. If I drag this to, let's say, 120, now I'm assuming it's on, but when I hover on this, it says off. But I'm assuming it's meaning that the input thing is off. Oh, I see. There are two different things. Output low cut filter. Okay. Okay. I'm just trying to wrap my head around that, but cool. How do you then, if I delete that, does it, yeah, it resets. Okay, makes sense. Two different things. Cool. Oh yeah, let's jump back in. Adjust the amount, fix the high end, start playing with the low end. Okay, interesting. Yeah, I wanted to test the squash a bit to hear what it sounds like. It clearly goes into very different territory. The beginning half of it still remains in the same realm as beyond the 5-point mark, but then it goes into serious crushing mode. Interesting inclusion, because it doesn't feel like it has really much to do with the rest of it in terms of the sound of it, but you know, again, cool to have that option there. You don't need to go there unless you want to. Sounds to me like, I mean, first of all, it kind of takes a lot of the gunk and the redundant masking material out. Go to about, you know, to about 5-point mark, and it seems to be like a pretty happy medium here. Again, the high end is piling up on us, so let's get rid of that. So at the 2-point mark, you begin to clearly hear the effect take place. Then if we push past it, the high end gets so intrusive that it's hard to really discern how it's fixing the other frequency areas. So my estimation, you have to take care of it pretty early. So we'll just do it at this point. From the analyzer, I see that the 8K mark is a pretty good happy medium. What I wished it showed me is when I hover on the analyzer here, that it would tell me the exact frequency that I'm looking at, because when if I'm looking at the analyzer, I can tell, okay, that's pretty much the center of the energy buildup area. I want to know what it is like that. Obviously, you can drag this and it will tell you that. But just at like a tiny user experience difference, I guess. Here, I'd also hope that you could lock the frequency. Maybe, can you? I'm trying to figure it out, because once it's locked in, once I have the point of where I want to focus on, then I just want to drag the amount down. But it's super difficult because this is so like high resolution, or there's a big scale of frequencies that this can control. If I'm pulling it downwards, it's very difficult for me to just pull downwards. Very easy to slide around a bit. Obviously, if you know your frequency, you could just look at where it is and adjust it again. But just a tiny thing to think about. Might be possible here. I don't know. I don't at least see anything intuitively that does that. But it would be very nice to have just a lock button here, because again, I could look at a frequency analyzer and know, okay, I want my bands to be at 100. I want this to be at 500. I want this to be at 1.5K, and I want this to be at 8K. Lock them in, and then I can just worry about up or down, less or more. That's seems like actually a pretty important thing, because I want to be, in many cases, let's say I got my low band fixed on 100 hertz. I want to close my eyes and I want to drag this slider, and I want to know, I want to feel when I've arrived at the right place. But if I do that, I'll probably wander off a few hertz to the wrong place, and then I can't actually make that decision blind. So I'm trying to, maybe this function is in here, maybe it's not. Okay, so this is kind of like a solo focus button, I guess. Would it be, okay, listen to the affected frequency band. Yeah. That locking feature, for someone like myself, seems like a biggie to sort out. But let's tame the high end. Okay, so that seems about right at this stage. What I would do now is I would push the amount more once again to see how things change now that we have that top end a bit more controlled. So I went upwards about 1 point. Again, I'm hearing it's pushing the high end a bit more, understandably why it would do that. This is kind of like the workflow challenge here, because these shapers they shape the high end sort of a bit more, not necessarily aggressively, but the perceived change is a lot more aggressive there. I am quite sensitive to high, kind of harsh frequencies anyway. So I don't know, I'd be interested in hearing what other people think, but still something to think about. I will say that this workflow is a lot better compared to something like Golfos. Again, the Golfos interface is a bit tiny. I know you can readjust it, but it's still, you feel like the controls are just a bit too small. And also the I do like the workflow. It's not bad by any means, but this just feels more, it feels faster and more intuitive, I'd say. So this is definitely a lot better in that regard. I'm going to pull this back to about 3.5 and I'm going to work on the highs again. So this would be a point where I'd actually pull up a reference to get my bearings, because it's very easy to get lost when you're just dealing with your mix and one processor. So I'd get my bearings there. Here it seems like I can pull that down quite a bit to get rid of that top end. But we'll keep it at that. We'll move on to the low frequency and see what we can discover. Seems like we have that zone in around 150 where we got some stuff centering around. So we'll dig into that, and then I actually want to go even deeper into the 50 hertz zone, but let's do 150 first. Yeah, I like that you can very clearly begin to hear when you go into, obviously this demands that you have ears and you know what you're doing, but I begin to hear the muffling effect of the boost here, but it becomes it's very musically identifiable. It's not like is this getting mushy or not, and is that like a pleasant or a bad quality? It sounds very I'm impressed by indeed what they say about the natural aspect of this. It does sound it doesn't alter my sound in a drastic way. It is very natural sounding, so that's super nice. So that's what I would do in that 150 zone. Let's go for the low stuff. Let me actually, I do want to pull up again the Fab Filter Pro Q3, because it does have a really good analyzer here. I'm gonna adjust my windows a bit here. I don't know if this glitches out the video capturing a bit. Let me check what we're dealing with here. No, looks good. So yeah, like I said, I love the analyzer on Bloom, but it's not like obviously super big or high resolution. It gives you like a general idea, which honestly might be, I'm pretty sure it's sufficient anyway. It might be even better for the workflow to not be overwhelmed by information. But if you are like a obsessive control perfectionist freak like I am, then I want to see more, and also I want to see how this compares to the what Pro Q3 sees versus what Bloom sees. Yeah, so we have a kind of a center here around, 55 hertz. So we'll actually choose that. We'll reset this intensity on that spectrum, and I'll just start boosting that and see what happens. I really like what it's doing there in those really low areas. It's like a very natural sub enhancer, a bit of like a puffy, comforting pillow down there. It feels very, very nice. It's not forced. Yeah, would I need to do some referencing to get my bearings in terms of what I would do in a bus processor level, but that feels really nice. We had some kind of a build up there also, or like a focal point around 100 hertz. So I want to check that first and try it on that one as well. Yeah, so pretty much 105 hertz. Ooh, this I like. You can also click on the slider here and go exactly for what you want to go for. So that is locked. You can't, boost from there. So that's nice. 105. So this is pretty much the fundamental tone for, or the frequency for the bass here. So let's see what happens. Oh, fuck. Oh, shit. Gonna have to buy this shit. That is super nice. Again, to me that feels like a third dimensional enhancement. Reminds me of, what does it remind me of? I like Kosh Audio's Ready is a super nice bass enhancer because it just does this kind of third dimension lowering, and it's very, very pleasant to listen to. This kind of reminds me of that effect, but probably I'd say more refined. I don't think you could. Well, I actually haven't tried Ready on a master bus. I don't know why, but yeah, I want to push this to the extreme just to get a sense of what it does. Yeah, very, very impressed by that. kind of a very simple, easy way to enhance that. Fuck, I want to spend 200 euros. Shit. Come on, oeksound. I've made you some sales. Help a buddy out. I'm Finnish as well. We're both Finnish, right? That has to count for something. Okay, let's move on to the low mid band. Let's find a nice, some nice key areas there, and we'll go from there. We got something happening there in 250, so we'll start boosting that. Again, there, obviously this is too much, but what I like about it is that it's instantly identifiable. It's like, ooh, getting too boxy or mushy or honky, and it's a very musical identification. Like it's a musical response, not like an engineering response. I don't know if that language makes any sense to some people, but it does for me. Yeah, you can hear like, oh, that it's very easy to identify what you want to go after. It's not like it's doing this well and that not well. So you're kind of left wondering what you're supposed to do. Not with this. It's very nice and gentle, the shifts between the changes you do, and then you just go like, oop, too much, too little, just perfect. So let's pull back on this. Yeah, very nice. Let's find another point. We got plenty of stuff here in the low mids to look at. $330 seems like a pretty big center point, so let's have a look at that. Probably not a massive change. I'm actually really liking this solo function. I'm not usually a fan of these because they tend to skew your perception, your sense of what you're dealing with. But here, it's actually very nicely done. It makes it very easy for me to identify where the balance should be. It's like in a musical context somehow. I don't have the language to describe it any better than that, but let me demonstrate. Let's solo that, and I'm gonna start boosting this. Like there you begin to hear that kind of honky build up there. Yeah, quite. We also have an interesting fluctuation in the track naturally there, where it kind of tapers off. So that's a pretty interesting observation as well. Let's try a bit higher up. And these are areas where you really want to be quite careful what you're doing. But yeah, again, very easy to hear where you're going, so it's no guesswork present there. All right, let's move on to the high mids. And again, I would fix a bunch of those issues in the mix in individual tracks rather than a bus. But yeah, high mids. Let's look for an interesting area. So how low does this go? I want to try this at around 840. Yeah, I'm really wanting that locking function, because it's close to impossible to stay on the frequency here. I mean, again, maybe it's here. No, I mean, I can't see anything. Okay, so in the help menu, okay, this one you just adjust the tone, so it doesn't give you anything. If you hover on this slider, it says adjust the tone frequency, double click to type in a value, okay? And then, what the heck? I'm pretty sure it allowed me to, it said also you can control the, I saw something, it said, okay, hold. Adjust the tone frequency level. Hey, what? Wait a minute. We did it. What am I doing? How did I do that? Okay, so this is in... Oh. Okay, it is possible. So, if you hover on this... on the slider icon itself, you can do this. If you just hover on the line, you can do this. That's very good. Took me a while to see that, but I do have the brain power of a squirrel, so take that for what it's worth. I'm sure I'm not the only one. I can't possibly be the only person on Earth who struggled with that. Okay, hold Option to solo, adjust the tone control level, hold Command to also move the frequency. That's kind of interesting. You can still be on the line here and hold this and do, instead of just go here. Okay, it's built in. Now that I know, super simple, very nice. Yeah, I mean, still, I mean, the lock is not necessary since I know this, but there we go. But if I never wanted to use this free sliding thing, which I'm pretty sure I don't, would be nice to still be able to lock that. And I'm not saying that only to defend my inferior brain power, but it's a genuine feature request. Okay? Don't you say anything, you... Don't say anything. Okay, we have it locked in. Like here, it's very easy to hear what's happening, what it's doing. I'm like, oh, okay, so it's bringing in that kind of, well, noise, but those sort of, I can't find a word. Very easy to hear. There it nudged the frequency. Oh, okay, so on the Magic Mouse, you can still hover on the line and move this sideways and it moves. So the lock feature is still valid with people with lacking brain power. That's not an issue, because if I click, I can't drag this around, so that's good. But you just want to be careful that when you put your finger here, you don't drag it to the side. Or if you have any other kind of control, mouse or whatever, that helps you do that. See, it's so easy to hear what it's doing there. I mean, that's not necessarily unique to this. I mean, a good EQ will also do that, but it does feel somehow very, again, the natural aspect of it seems to, it does indeed seem to be more contextual than just a frequency control. Okay, cool. Let's find something a bit higher up. Okay, interesting. Yeah, but again, natural changes, very easy to identify. I'll try something, again, a bit higher. Let's look at our frequency analyzer here. Cool, let's look for something even higher. Yeah, these kind of areas often for me in mixes tend to be more like cumulative problem areas. So I'll probably on a bus level be cutting some of these. But yeah, again, very easy to locate, identify. I want to do one more zone from maybe around this 5 to 7K. Okay, cool. My original plan was to just go into individual instruments as well, but this is getting super long, and we in fact did learn a lot about this just on the master bus, maybe even more, probably even more, because it's trying to chew on more material, and we're still, like I said, dealing with an unmixed track, so it does have to do more heavy lifting, which kind of teaches you what it actually does more than in places where it's more like a nuanced tool. But I can definitely see how. So if I'm thinking about this in terms of my workflow, this would not be something I would pull in at a very early stage. To me, this seems like a where would I place it? This would be like a middle to late stage finisher, and it could actually be the very last thing that I use to shape a sound in place, because I've talked about Gullfoss before being something that I could use like Soothe 2 first to fix a bunch of frequency problems. Then I could use something like, I would probably go like a Sonibol EQ to get the profile a bit better. This would kind of depend on the sound. In there, also like a Waves Factory EQ would. What I like about Waves Factory more than other implementations of that or uses of that is that it seems to like juice up your sound. It just kind of energizes. It's like a juicer up. It's not like an exciter at all. It's more like it just amps up more stuff into your sound. It sounds fuller and thicker and bigger. So I would really probably bring that in most cases after like well, that Sonibol thing is a bit different because I really love the function of the grouping there. So because of that, you'd probably place it later in the chain, because you can have your sound in a really good place, and then you can really do very little with Sonibol, just do like slight general adjustments, and then put it in a group context, so you can have the spectral actually placing of the sound. So that would probably have to test more to figure out where to put it. But comparing this with Gullfoss is probably the closest thing that I can come up with. But they're very different. Like for me, Gullfoss has always been like like the sound is done. It's just a last finisher, last bit of polish to inch it closer to the sound. But Bloom actually will do a lot more. Like it can probably, based on this, do maybe in many situations I wouldn't even need Gullfoss. I don't know. Again, I would need to put them side by side. But for me, Gullfoss has been a bit of a finisher, because if you push it too hard in the context of a full mix, having it on many tracks, the changes, the effects can begin to accumulate, and then you can get a bit of like harshness, a bit of different problems in your sound. Again, this depends entirely on your mixing style, etc. So it's not a criticism towards Gullfoss. I love that tool. But this seems like this can dig a bit deeper, dig a bit sort of more neutrally, less intrusively. Again, Gullfoss does amazing things to your sound, but it kind of does it in a very specific way. This is by far obviously more flexible, but also more natural sounding. So if I were to use this like with Gullfoss, I would probably, this seems like Bloom does like the brunt of the work, like the biggest, heavier lifter out of all of these. And again, like in my process, the Sonibol EQ would be a bit of a different thing. Like I said, I love the group function of it the most, so I would use that like as a group bus control hub thing. So this would probably be before that. Seems to make sense to me more. But yeah, once the sound is once I've treated all the problem areas, I'd probably throw in something like Bloom, and if I don't want to, you know, juice it up with Waves Factory, then I don't do that. But if I do, then I do. that thing does, it sounds really, really good. It does its own thing. But I would really put this, I would put Bloom in there to really get the sound from, you know, 40% to 90 or 100%. Like, I see no reason why this couldn't just get it to 100. But I would need to use it with Gullfoss side by side to figure that out. But that will be an interesting experiment to figure out. But yeah, I'm really impressed by how this seems to, it does is so much lifting. It you know, takes those masking build up problem frequency areas, gets rid of them, accentuates what you want, but it seems to also give that polish. So it just seems to do a lot of lifting, but it also has the ability to do the polish. So super impressed. Yeah, I mean, gonna have to figure out how to put together the money for this, unless oeksound sends me a copy. But yeah, again, I wish there was an upgrade cross-grade path, so do just about everybody that, you know, I've seen. Well, that's not fair. Not everybody. A lot of people are saying that they wish there was a path to get a bit of a discount on that if you have their products, and I understand why. Would have made a lot of sense. But otherwise, you wait for Black Friday or Christmas. It's April now, so good luck with that. And yeah, I mean, high praise. Obviously, this is only one session. We only used it on the master bus, but it seems stellar. And again, my fears came true, because I'll have to get it now, one way or the other. Put together that that money. Yeah, super impressed. If you have this at home or at your studio, let me know what you think, and let me know what you think about this video. Again, tremendous work by oeksound. I can't say I was surprised, because I have high expectations of them, and they did live up to it. This was slightly more sort of shrouded whether this is going to make sense, because we have so many other tonal shapers and the likes. But yeah, this clearly seems to do its own thing and fit into its own slot. So yeah, let me know what you think. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Finished.